What keeps you up at night? Technical surprise. And that could be adversary technical surprise or extraterrestrial technical surprise.
Oh my gosh, dude.
The Pentagon has unexpectedly dropped shocking UFO details, sparking wide-eyed wonder and deep suspicion. Amid official denials of hidden alien tech projects, this startling disclosure has left many questioning what's really out there. The unveiled footage and photos, long buried in secrecy, hint at mysteries not yet solved, challenging our understanding of the skies above. Join us as we dive into the unknown, seeking answers and solutions in the captivating realm of UFOs. Terrible secrets in the Pentagon. This story starts in a very unusual manner. Picture this scenario. The large and important building in Washington, D.C., known for housing the headquarters of the United States military, commonly called the Pentagon, was openly announcing to everyone who would listen that they were not concealing any information regarding aliens or unidentified flying objects. They made clear statements denying any involvement in dismantling unidentified flying objects to understand their technology, a process often referred to as reverse engineering. For over 6 decades, the Pentagon has been consistent with this narrative. But here's where things take a turn into the odd and mysterious. While they were making these public declarations, they simultaneously and without much noise released a significant amount of old documents into the public domain through the National Archives. These documents were not fresh off the press. They were decades old, dating back more than 50 years. What's strikingly peculiar is that these documents contained detailed accounts and investigations of aerial phenomena that no one has been able to rationalize or explain. This situation naturally leads to a puzzling question. What is the Pentagon genuinely attempting to communicate through these actions? Recently, this topic has gained more attention in the media. The Pentagon, a crucial segment of the United States government tasked with defense and military operations, divulged some details concerning their potential involvement in secretive projects. These projects are rumored to have been dedicated to the study and examination of extraterrestrial technology, such as spacecraft from other worlds that might have crashed on Earth, or even encounters with beings from other planets. These are the scenarios that one might expect to find in the plot of a science fiction movie, rather than in real-world government activities. But hold on, there's more to the story. The Pentagon, which is like a huge office for all the military stuff in the United States, released a report. In this report, they talked about all those tales people have been sharing, stories about hidden alien ships or secret experiments with stuff from other worlds. The Pentagon said those stories? Well, they're just that, stories. Nothing more than tales spinning around and around, just like kids ride on a merry-go-round. These tales are all over Washington, D.C., where you find all those big, serious government buildings, including the big Pentagon-shaped one, which is, you guessed it, the Pentagon. But here we are, trying to dig through all this and figure out what's really going on. Now let's think about how rumors work. They usually start small, maybe just a whisper among a small group of friends or people working together. But then, as these whispers get passed from one person to the next, they begin to grow. They get bigger, weirder, and more unbelievable. That's just the way we humans are. We love a juicy story. The more dramatic, the better. But this love for stories can lead to a lot of confusion and people not believing each other. Some folks, who were always doubtful, feel this proves they were right all along. They think, see, I knew it was all just make-believe. But then, there are other people, a different group, who really think there's something going on that's being hidden from us regular folks. To these people, any investigation or report by the government, like the one from the Pentagon, is seen through a lens of doubt. They think it's just the government's way of trying to keep the lid on a huge, mysterious secret. For these individuals, no matter what the government says, it's just another move in a big game of keep away with the truth. They're convinced that there's a whole lot more going on behind those closed doors and official statements. And so, the cycle of rumor, disbelief, and conspiracy continues, with each side looking at the other with suspicion and doubt. It's like a never-ending story, where every answer leads to more questions and every revelation brings more mystery. All right, Let's break this down because there's a lot to unpack here. A lot of people out there just don't take the government at its word, and that's a fact. It's like when someone tells you something too good to be true, and your first reaction is to raise an eyebrow. The Pentagon, which is a big part of the US military, knows this all too well. They've come out and said it straight. No matter how clear they are, there will always be folks who think there's more to the story. They believe the government has its fingers in some very mysterious pies, like secret studies about UFOs or hidden experiments dealing with alien gadgets deep in underground labs. Now, think about the stories you hear or the movies you watch. There's often that one person, the insider, who knows what's really going on. That's the person everyone's waiting for in real life. A whistleblower. That's someone who sees something wrong and decides to spill the beans. People are on the edge of their seats for someone like this David Grew character, who's a made-up name here for our story, hoping he'll step into the light with a folder full of smoking gun evidence. They're dreaming of this moment when this guy shows up and says, "Look, here's the real deal," in a way that makes everyone sit up and listen, even those who never believe anything. But while everyone's looking out for this big dramatic moment, the Pentagon did something that might not make the front page but is still pretty interesting. They went ahead and quietly shared a bunch of old papers for everyone to see. We're talking about documents that have been tucked away in the National Archives, collecting dust. These aren't just random papers. They're about UFO sightings from way back when, official investigations from something called Project Blue Book, and what the government thought about all these spooky happenings from the past, like in the 1950s and 1960s. They even shared some old videos. This release of information seems like a small step toward transparency, or perhaps it's just another way to stir the pot of rumors and theories. Either way, it adds more fuel to the fire of public curiosity and debate about what really goes on beyond the public eye when it comes to unidentified flying objects and possible encounters with extraterrestrial life. Now we're going deeper into the mystery with some videos that have been kept from the public eye. Prepare to be surprised by what these hidden images reveal. The mystifying skies, silent watchers. All right, let's talk about what you're going to see next. There's a bunch of pictures and videos coming up. Some of these pictures, I bet, you've never seen before. I know I haven't. Now, when you look at them, you might think, oh, these must be fake, or these are just bits and pieces flying around because of a rocket coming back to Earth. But hold on, let's not jump to conclusions too quickly. There's something you should know. The National Archives, that big library holding all sorts of historical records, has lots of videos of rockets coming back from space. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. But here's the thing. Out of all those videos, there's this one that the Pentagon, the big military office, thinks is really special. They even put it on their website and pointed out that, in this video, the things flying around the rocket can't be identified. They're a total mystery. And here's another curious bit. There's another similar event where a rocket was coming back down to Earth. And guess what? There were strange objects around that one too. These objects seemed like they were tagging along or watching the rocket as it came back. It's a bit tricky to figure out exactly what was going on, but it's kind of the same deal as the first one I mentioned. This is all pretty intriguing, right? And it looks like there's more to uncover. What I'm about to show you includes some photos and clips that are really out of the ordinary. The Pentagon says these are unidentified. They can't explain what they are. Plus, I've got some stories to share. Even though they happened over 50 years ago, nobody has really been able to give a good explanation for them, even now. So, let's dive in and see if we can figure out any of this mysterious stuff. Today, I want to talk about something many of you might have heard about: flying saucers. The reason why the Air Force, the part of the military that deals with everything in the sky, is so interested in these mysterious objects is because we see it as our job to find out what anything flying around could mean, especially if it could be dangerous or threatening to our country, the United States. Since the year 1947, we've been on this task, gathering reports from various people and places. We've gotten a lot of these reports, somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 of them. Now let's break this down a bit. When we get these reports, it's our job to figure out what these things people are seeing in the sky actually are. We've gotten pretty good at this. A lot of times we find out that these so-called mysterious objects aren't so mysterious after all. Sometimes people have just played a trick, or they've mistaken a regular airplane, one of our own, for something strange. Other times, what people think they see in the sky is just the weather acting up, or some weird reflections, or lights playing tricks on their eyes. But, and here's where things get interesting, even after we sort through all these reports, there's still a small slice of them left over. These are the reports that come from people we trust, people who don't usually make up stories, and they're telling us about things that seem really out there, really unbelievable. We're trying hard to make sense of these particular reports. The tricky part is that these sightings, these reports of weird flying stuff, they don't come with any easy way to measure or understand them in a clear-cut way. It's like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. Without a clear pattern or way to group them, it's tough for us to analyze them the way we would normally analyze other things. Despite all our efforts, up until now, we've come to one main conclusion about these unexplained reports, and that's that they don't seem to follow any kind of plan or order that would suggest they're a threat to our country. In other words, even though we can't explain exactly what these things are, we haven't found any evidence that they mean to do harm to the United States. This is a big job for us at the Air Force, because ensuring the safety of our skies is a top priority. That's why we take every single one of these reports seriously, no matter how strange they might seem. We look into each one, trying to find reasonable explanations for what people are seeing. It's a huge task, considering the variety and the volume of these sightings, but it's important work, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that if there's anything out there that could be a threat, we know about it and are ready to deal with it. We continue our journey into the unknown, delving into stories and testimonies surrounding UFOs. Brace yourself for unexpected twists and revelations that challenge our usual beliefs. The Major Keyhole's Sky Secrets. Recently, there have been quite a few stories and discussions about strange objects seen flying in the sky. A lot of people are scratching their heads, wondering if these odd sightings could be linked to super-secret missions carried out by parts of the United States government. However, it's important to note that we don't have any proof to back up those thoughts. To get a clearer picture, let's create a simple story to help us understand. Imagine a scene where a group of people are gathered, waiting for a signal to start an event, something like dropping a cloth. The leader of the group says, "Keep your eyes peeled for the signal. The moment you see the cloth hit the ground, we'll start our operation, Major Keyhole." Now let's pretend we're having a chat with someone named Major Keyhole. Major Keyhole isn't just anyone. He's the author of a book called Flying Saucers Are Real. We're really eager to know his opinion on the recent string of mysterious objects people have been seeing in the sky. Even though Major Keyhole holds the Air Force in high regard and values their insights, his own findings lead him to think differently. According to Major Keyhole, based on extensive research and evidence he's gathered over 3 years, some of these baffling sightings might actually be crafts from another world. He's not the type to jump to conclusions without evidence. He has spent a considerable amount of time speaking with numerous airplane pilots. These pilots aren't just sharing any ordinary tales. They've reported seeing unidentified objects that not only move at incredible speeds, but also have a definite shape and form. In a particularly memorable event, some pilots shared that their plane shook and faced rough air due to a mysterious object that whizzed by at an astonishing speed of 500 miles per hour. This particular incident serves as a strong piece of evidence that the unknown object was not only actually there, visible and solid, but it was also moving extremely quickly. Reflecting on this episode, along with other detailed and convincing stories, Major Keyhole has come to the strong conclusion that some of these unidentified flying objects might really be coming from outside our planet, Earth. This kind of debate or discussion isn't something new. It has been happening for quite a long time and seems to continue just the same today, without showing signs of slowing down or changing direction. A key personality in these discussions is Donald Keyhole, who once served as an officer in the United States Marine Corps and was a skilled pilot in the Navy before he turned his attention to writing. He's the author of the book we've been talking about, The Flying Saucers Are Real. Keyhole didn't just make wild guesses. Instead, he dedicated a significant amount of time to carefully look into and analyze numerous reports that came from different places and covered various times. Through his extensive research and analysis, Keyhole came to a conclusion that echoes the beliefs of many who study unidentified flying objects, also known as UFOs, today. He sifted through a mountain of data, weighing each piece of evidence and examining the credibility of numerous eyewitness accounts. These weren't just random stories. They were detailed observations made by reliable sources, including trained pilots and military personnel who encountered these strange objects while on duty. Back in the middle part of the 20th century, around the year 1950, a significant event occurred that still intrigues many today. This was the time when a specific book hit the shelves, sparking widespread interest and debate. Around this period, there were numerous photographs taken that, surprisingly, turned out very clear despite the primitive cameras available at that time. Among these photographs, there's one that stands out, a picture shrouded in mystery, one that no one has been able to fully explain even to this day. This peculiar photo seemed to emerge from thin air, originally found in the National Archives. Somehow, without much of a backstory or detailed information, it found its way onto AARO's website, leaving more questions than answers. These mysterious happenings didn't just pique the curiosity of ordinary folks. They caught the attention of the United States government as well. The 1960s in particular were a time of heightened interest and concern. During this era, the American government found itself in a whirlwind of reports and sightings of unidentified flying objects. These events were not small talk. They were taken very seriously, much like they would be today. This period was marked by a significant level of public and governmental unrest, with numerous individuals reporting sightings of unusual objects in the sky. A key figure during these tumultuous times was Gerald R. Ford. At the time, Ford was serving as the House Minority Leader and was a representative for the state of Michigan. But Ford was not just any politician. He would later ascend to become the President of the United States. However, before his presidency, he was particularly vocal about the strange occurrences involving UFOs, especially those reported in southern Michigan and other areas. Ford was adamant that these reports should not be ignored or brushed aside. He advocated strongly for a thorough investigation, believing that the American public deserved answers to the mysterious sightings that many credible witnesses had reported. Gerald Ford thought it was a good idea for Congress to look into these UFO reports. He believed that conducting an investigation would be beneficial because Americans were starting to get really worried about all the UFO stories that were spreading. Ford suggested, given all these recent sightings and strange occurrences, it would be really beneficial for a group from Congress to hold some meetings to get to the bottom of this. They should invite people from the government who might know something about this, and also people who claim they've seen these UFOs. I believe that if the American public saw that a thorough investigation was being conducted, they would feel much more at ease. They're hearing all these stories, and some folks are claiming these events are real. It's only fair to look into it. We're approaching the heart of the mystery, armed with new information that could turn everything on its head. This part of our journey might just change the way we view the world. No one talking about the ghosts on radar. Despite expectations, no formal investigation by Congress took place. However, on April 5, 1966, something notable did happen. The first public hearing in Congress concerning UFOs was held. It's important to mention that Ford, a significant figure at the time, was never truly convinced by the official statements provided by the U.S. Air Force. They had explained away some of these mysterious sightings as merely swamp gas, a natural phenomenon where gases from swamps catch fire and create strange lights. This explanation, given by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, was widely criticized and even ridiculed. Interestingly, Dr. Hynek, who initially dismissed the UFO sightings, dramatically changed his mind later on. He began to seriously investigate UFOs and eventually came to believe that they might indeed come from other worlds or extraterrestrial civilizations. Now let's talk about something quite recent and fascinating. The Pentagon, which is part of the U.S. Department of Defense, shared some intriguing footage. This particular video, captured by a high-flying camera, shows an Atlas missile being tested. This might not sound extraordinary at first glance. What the camera recorded was the missile's booster returning to Earth after its launch in September 1962. The footage could also show parts of the missile's payload, although that part isn't entirely clear. This event marked a significant milestone. It was the 100th time an Atlas rocket was launched from a specific site located by the Atlantic Ocean. The video is more than just a piece of history. It provides a unique glimpse into the technology and efforts of the era, capturing a moment that ties back to the broader story of space exploration and military advancement. The main part of the rocket, known as the nose cone, was filled with fake materials instead of real explosives to act like a warhead for this test. It was aimed to land near Ascension Island, which is located in the ocean west of Africa. Besides, this rocket wasn't just flying alone. It had two cameras fixed at certain angles. These cameras were meant to take pictures of the moment when the lower parts of the rocket, called booster engines, separated from the main part, known as the sustainer engine. This particular moment happened around 2.5 minutes after the rocket had taken off. The reason the Air Force was so interested in these pictures was that they had been having trouble with this part of the rocket before, and they wanted to understand what was going wrong. To try to get these cameras back, after their journey into space, the Air Force placed airplanes and ships along the expected path of their return to Earth, which is a common practice. However, it's not entirely sure if these cameras made it back safely or if they were destroyed during re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. If they did burn up, it means they were lost forever. But considering the situation, if what we mostly see burning in the recordings is the big booster part, and then the nose cone following it, they are likely moving along the same path back towards Earth. Soon you might notice a third object appearing in the footage. This third one seems to be moving in line with the first two, which is actually pretty normal in these types of rocket launches. Seeing multiple parts following similar paths down through the sky is a part of what makes watching these rocket launches so amazing and interesting. This raises a curious point. Out of all the instances where missiles re-entered the atmosphere, why would the company Aero decide to showcase this specific footage on their website, labeling it as an unidentified object? The answer might be linked to an event from 1974, which, while not directly related, shares similarities with this missile test. This event took place in Huntsville, Alabama, a place known for its connection to space and missile research. Back in 1974, experts at a missile testing site reported a baffling situation. During a standard exercise where they were using advanced radar equipment to track missile tests over the Pacific Ocean, they encountered something unusual. These powerful radars detected what they described as ghost ships, mysterious objects that appeared out of nowhere. What made this situation even more intriguing was the lack of clear explanations from the authorities. There was minimal official response to the scientists' findings, leaving many questions unanswered. This incident could suggest why Aero might feature such footage on their website. It highlights the fact that even with advanced technology and expert knowledge, there are still occurrences that remain unexplained. These ghost ships, detected by sophisticated tracking systems, resemble the unidentified object in the Aero footage. Both instances involve mysterious elements associated with missile tests, captured either on radar or on camera, that experts could not immediately explain. As we reach the climax of our exploration, we stand on the brink of potentially groundbreaking discoveries. Huntsville, the missile that suddenly acted weird. Major Dallas Vanis, who speaks for the Army base, shared that last August they saw some strange things in the sky that they couldn't explain. A lot of scientists, who usually don't want to share their names because many people are doubtful about unknown flying objects, have quietly mentioned that these odd sightings, which they call ghost ships, are a mystery to them. They admitted, "This is the first time we're seeing something like this." Especially one person who knows a lot about missiles and works for the Army. This person is really good at understanding the complex systems that track missiles in the sky. This all took place in a town called Huntsville, which is where the Army's special team that looks into missiles and their paths is based. This team studies how missiles fly, especially during tests done in a far-off place called Kwajalein Atoll, which is part of a group of islands the U.S. takes care of. This past August, the Air Force sent up a big missile called Minuteman from a place in California aiming for this Kwajalein place. Normally, missiles go up and then come down following a set path, like throwing a ball into the air and watching it land. And that's what the scientists expected this missile to do as it raced across the sky towards a testing area in the Pacific Ocean. But when this missile was on its way down, following the usual path missiles take, something unusual happened. The scientists watching it couldn't believe their eyes. They expected it to follow its normal path like any other time they've done tests. But this time, something was different. They're still trying to figure out what exactly happened and why this missile didn't act like they expected. It's all very strange and new to them, adding to the mystery of what they saw in the sky that August. In this part of the story, the tip of the missile, also known as the nose cone, had come off the third part of the missile. It was falling back to Earth very fast, at a speed of 22,000 feet every second. This was happening high up in the sky, and special machines called radars on the Kwajalein and Mek Islands were watching it carefully. These radars are like big eyes that can see far away, and were following the nose cone as it fell from about 400,000 feet up in the air. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The people who know how to read these radar screens, who were far away in the Pacific, saw something unusual. They saw something flying right next to the falling nose cone of the missile. This wasn't supposed to be there. What they saw on their screens was something shaped like an upside-down plate floating in the air. It was to the right and above the falling tip of the missile at first. Then, as they watched, this strange object moved across the path of the falling nose cone. It went from being above and to the right, to below and to the left of it. And then, just like that, it vanished from the radar. It was as if it had never been there. This mysterious object, which the radar experts couldn't explain, was pretty big. It seemed to be about 10 feet tall and 40 feet long. That's about as long as a school bus and as tall as a basketball hoop. People started calling it the ghost ship because it appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared just as mysteriously. Now, you might think maybe this was just a mistake on the radar, like when the weather makes the radar show things that aren't there. Sometimes radars pick up things that aren't real because of unusual weather or other natural reasons. But here's the thing. The experts, the people who really understand this stuff, don't think that's what happened. They don't believe this ghost ship was just a trick of the weather or a glitch in their equipment. They couldn't find any normal reason for this strange object to show up on their radar. So far, no one can explain what this ghost ship was or where it came from. It remains a mystery, something out of the ordinary that has everyone puzzled. Is there a similar mystery to the one in 1974 that happened back in 1962? Well, the Pentagon, which is a part of the United States Defense Department, isn't really giving any answers, and that's really annoying. You see, it's quite simple for some people to think that all these videos are just parts of a space rocket called Atlas that broke apart and burned when it came back into Earth's atmosphere. But I've mentioned before, these strange happenings aren't new. They've been going on for quite a while. The event we're talking about was the 100th time they tried to launch this kind of missile from the same place. Now, you might wonder, why does this one video get all the attention from the Pentagon if it's just like all the others? There must be something different or special about it, right? And it's not just about this one incident. There's a lot more mysterious stuff turning up, especially on the Arrow website, which collects old records. They even have a section waiting for some videos from the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, which haven't been made digital yet. But here's the intriguing part. The CIA has hinted at what's in those videos. They say there's footage showing mysterious objects moving in the night sky, objects that don't match any known aircraft, balloons, or birds. Different government groups have already looked at this footage and couldn't figure out what those objects were. It's not every day that you hear about mysterious objects in the sky that no one can explain. And when the CIA releases these new videos, it's going to be a big deal. I mean, think about it. Real, unedited clips showing unknown objects flying around. That's the stuff of science fiction, except it's happening in real life. What's the truth about the Pentagon's unexpected UFO news? Is it just a trick, or are we close to discovering big secrets? We want to know what you think. Remember to like and subscribe for more explorations into the mystery.